Yo, what's good, guys? Today's video is going to be about leveling up in levels of consciousness, and I don't want to waffle a lot on these videos, but I've laid out everything in a very detailed manner for you to sort of digest and make notes if you want to. And if you want to watch this video and for it to make sense for you, I recommend you to watch it in order of the chapters. But if you're the type of person that wants to jump around and watch different chapters, that's totally up to you. But without any further ado, let's just jump right in. So in this section of the video, we will be deep diving into the map of consciousness that was created by Dr. David R. Hawkins. However, instead of focusing on the whole map of consciousness, we are going to be focusing on the lower parts, the levels below 200, where most people seem to reside at when it comes to motivation, when it comes to just life in general. We are going to be focusing on these lower levels because that's what I feel we are sort of stuck in. We are stuck in these lower levels and we can't seem to get out of those levels. The most we can do is just cycle through those levels and never improve our situation. First off, I just wanted to share a quote by Dr. David R. Hawkins when he was describing the map of consciousness. He said, "What the world calls reality is only a perceptual field." So essentially what that means is whatever we see outside, whatever other people see outside, is merely a perception that is sort of made through that person's experiences, whether that be traumatic experiences or experiences of joy. And when you have these experiences, they sort of dictate what your next move is going to be. And when you have these experiences, they tend to create an emotion within you. When you first experience something, they create an emotion within you, and that emotion then becomes a belief, and that belief then becomes a way of how you view the world. That basically shapes the way you see everything. And like I said before, it's not just the positive things that shape your worldview, it's also the negative, traumatic stuff that you rarely talk about, but is still alive in your subconscious. Dr. David R. Hawkins was a practicing psychiatrist for over 50 years. He worked with people with mental illness, trauma, and addiction. However, through his time, he noticed that the traditional sort of psychology or traditional medicine could only take a person so far. After years of pondering on this, he created what we have now, which we call the map of consciousness. The purpose of this map was to help you pinpoint where you currently reside at, or the cycles that you're going through. And once you pinpoint where you sort of reside at, that can give you like a natural progression of what your next level is. So for example, for someone living in shame, the next level above shame is guilt. So that's sort of the natural progression of those emotions, and it's in a logarithmic scale. So to give you a basic sort of understanding, every emotion that you jump up from, it's not just a little difference you feel the difference 10 times more every single emotion you go up. So when you go up from, let's say, shame to guilt, you feel 10 times better. For the sake of this video, we will only focus on the levels that we see below 200. So we are going to be focusing on emotions such as shame, guilt, anger. Those are the type of emotions that we are going to be looking at, because that's what I feel is where most people are sort of residing at. Most people around you as well, they are mostly residing or cycling through those same emotions, which are of a low vibrational frequency. And once you sort of identify them within yourself, you now have the power to look at that same thing, but project that outwards and just realize that most people are just residing at a low level, and what they think and they do has got nothing to do with you, but it's just their own experiences have shaped them to be that sort of person. Like most stuff or most people outside, they are ego driven, they are toxic, they are fear driven, and they just fake. Do you know what I mean? Like they don't have that sort of they don't feel like they have a soul. Like they just, I don't know how to explain it in a way, right? But it just feels like that they are shaped by something who they aren't, and you can just see through that once you are like around that person. Most of the content online these days as well, which is of like someone running when it's like 5 a.m. It's like motivation, hard work, or it's just some influencer flexing money in Dubai, or even someone in the gym that's been taking steroids. Like it's just so low level. I just call this like soul sucking energy, right? Because once you watch those videos, you don't get motivated. You just see that and you're like, oh, like it just feels weird to watch that. And what that does essentially is it drains you of your energy, and that same energy you could have used in your own life. Instead of giving you the energy, what this sort of concept of motivation and hard work it sort of sucks the soul out of you. It steals the energy and the motivation that you have. And instead of you directing that towards something that you like, you sort of get that energy sucked off by the content or the people that you're surrounded by. They instill this sort of toxicity in you where you don't feel enough and your self-worth is like very, very, very low. And at the same time, they plant seeds in your mind of fear of why you can't do that and why it's impossible. And it's basically like crabs in a bucket mentality where if you're going up, someone will just come and pull you down. And this is why most people are stuck and they just freeze. And I've been that for a long time, but now that I've started to like sort of understand through my experiences and through what I've been sort of researching and reading, I wanted to make this video for you because I wanted to give you like a shortcut method of everything that I've learned over the past 5 or 6 years. And I've been in that same position as well, where I've not been able to take action on my own stuff, or I'm feeling inspired, but I'm not just able to transmute the energy into something that I would like to make. This is where most people are stuck or they freeze. But you don't need to worry because I'm going to help you unfreeze. In this section of the video, we are going to be talking about how to move up this map of consciousness, how to move up the scale. And we are primarily going to focus on the levels that are below 200. So for example, we're going to focus on shame, we're going to focus on anger, we're going to focus on pride. We are going to be focusing on all these low level emotions because that's where I feel most people are stuck at. I'm so excited to share this with you right now because this is like what I've dedicated the past 1.5 or even 2 years to just research, read, brainstorm, and finally I'm making this video where I'm able to share it, where you can just digest it in such an easy way because of this video. And I promise you, this section we're going to go in so much detail. You have not seen this much detail put into a section of like some educational video. We are going to talk about how we can understand the concept of motivation in a completely new way. Before we deep dive into the levels of consciousness, I just wanted to say, whatever you know about motivation, discipline, or hard work, or whatever you see or whatever you feel like when you hear those words, I just want you to leave that before jumping into this deep dive with me. Because the reason I'm saying that is because sometimes our perception of the thing is very different to what other people think it is. And like the quote I displayed before, the words, they may seem a certain way, but the way you hear them and the way you feel when you hear them, they seem very different. They feel different to everyone. So discipline for me may mean, I love discipline. Oh my God, I love waking up at this time and doing these things. But for you, discipline might be, oh, I have to wake up at this time and I hate that and I hate that. So whatever you understand about those words or whatever feelings that you get, leave that for now, because what we're going to do is we're going to have a new meaning of what that actually means, what motivation and hard work and discipline actually mean, because they are the same sort of terms under the same umbrella, but they just mean different things because they have different levels of consciousness attached to them. So to help you progress from these lower levels, I'm going to put them on the screen so you can see them right there. And I want you to pick the level which you resonate with the most right now. Now that level could be fear, that level could be grief, that level could be guilt. You need to pick a level where you feel you're most resonated with. That's like the energy. And if you think you're just sort of bouncing off of different energies. So if you're cycling through different levels and different emotions, which is quite common, you just need to pick one level right now where you are resonated at, and that's going to help you pinpoint where you want to go next. So once you've picked your sort of level of where you reside at, all we have to do now is to understand and learn how to move up from that level. And you don't have to worry because I'm going to teach you exactly how to do that. Now let's deep dive into the progression of the levels of consciousness. And to make it easier for you to understand, I used the example of someone going to the gym. And while I'm using the example, I'm going to use that same example and show you how it sort of progresses as we go through shame and guilt and fear and other sort of emotions. Because the reason I stuck with one example is because I want to show the different dimensions that one thing and the way you view that thing can have. So without wasting any more time, let's just deep dive into it. Okay, so let's start off with shame. What I've put underneath shame is I deserve to suffer. That is basically the underlying emotion you feel or underlying feeling that you have. Editor me here, just to let you guys know that I'm using the example of going to the gym. When you are in a state of shame, that's the sort of thing that runs through your head. Underneath that, we have the motivation, And below that, we have what the mind sort of contains when you are doing that task. So the task that we have selected is going to the gym. So the motivation you have when you are in a state of shame is you want to go because you want to punish yourself through a harsh workout. And the reason you want to punish yourself is because your underlying feeling is you deserve to suffer. Because you are in shame, you deserve to suffer. And this is what the mind contains in this moment. You have no sort of self-compassion in this moment. There's this feeling that you're changing a flaw in your existence, and internally you feel ashamed and invisible in your own body. When you are in a state of shame, there is no I want to go to the gym because I want to look good or because I want to improve my health. The only reason you go to the gym when you are feeling that shame is because you don't like who you are. You don't like, maybe there's a specific part of your body, maybe you don't like your skinny arms, or maybe you think you're too fat, or maybe you think your face is fat or something like that. The reason you go there when you are stuck in shame is because you want to sort of punish yourself because of having these flaws in your existence. Now let's go a step above that and let's jump into guilt. So, like I said, we are going to be using the same example of going to the gym. The underlying feeling within guilt is I have to fix myself. I let myself go. It's basically regretting something that you did. Maybe you didn't go to the gym for a certain period of time. Let's say you went to the gym for a year, and then after that year you didn't go for 6 months, and now you're back in the gym and you feel guilty for not going for the 6 months. So your motivation for going to the gym is you're making up for your sort of shortcomings or your failure of not going to the gym, right? And what your mind contains is, it feels more like an obligation rather than something that you want to do. It doesn't excite you in a way. You just go there because you feel like you're sort of letting yourself go. And if you don't go, you'll just feel even more guilt. So it's basically like a cycle. If you go, it feels like an obligation, but if you don't go, it just means that you're gonna feel more guilty. Apathy. The underlying feeling within apathy is, what's the point of all this? When you're doing something, there is no motivation. You're just going to the gym because it's a habit that you've created, and there's no sort of internal thing that drives you to actually go there. And in your mind, you just don't push yourself enough, right? You don't push yourself enough because it feels like a chore. It just feels like a habit that you have to do, but there's not that mental drive there. You are there physically, right? Which is the most important thing, but you're not mentally there. So even if you push yourself, you're not going to make progress, because at the end of the day, you just think, what's the point of all this? So your head's not really in the game. You're just there physically, but you're not there mentally. When it comes to grief, it's basically synonymous with loss, right? It's losing something that you once had dear to yourself. And in this situation, you miss the old you. And the motivation that you have is you want to catch up to that old version of you that was intense and passionate about going to the gym. And currently, you are missing that same energy that you had before. And in your mind, you're just frustrated because you're not as better than you were before. And the reason why you feel this grief is because you miss that old version of you, right? You miss going to the gym and having that energy and having that intensity. Maybe you went with your friends, or maybe you went by yourself, but you still had that same energy, but you don't have that energy now. So you go in a state of missing something else from the past and not really putting that attention in what you can do in your current session. Residing on fear is quite common, and it's quite popular as well, because the reason you go to the gym is not because you want to be healthy, not because you want to look good. The reason is you think of the consequences. You think of the consequences of what happens if you don't. So the underlying feeling is, if I don't go, I'll feel sick, rejected, and I'll feel ugly. And the motivation is you go because you feel terrified of what will happen if you don't go. So the consequences sort of outweigh the positives, and those sort of consequences of feeling ugly and being seen as someone who is not that person makes you feel like you need to go, because the consequences here outweigh the positives. So in your mind, you do everything to avoid being seen as ugly or a loser. So basically the whole reason why you go to the gym is because you want to avoid the other side of what will happen if you don't. So it's not about going to your destination, it's about running away from the other side. With that being said, let's now jump on towards desire. When you are in a state of desire, you actually take an improvement from that level, from fear. And instead of doing things where you are afraid of the consequences, you move towards actually doing the things because you want something external. So the underlying feeling here is because you work out because you want to look better and because you need that validation. And that is like a step up from fear, because instead of moving away from the consequences, you're moving towards what you actually want. So the motivation here is you need something external. So you need the likes, you need the compliments, or you need the women. And because of that motivation, you feel more inclined to go to the gym. You enjoy your workouts more because you believe that the work you put in the gym will result in these sort of external things that you will get. So your mind, it basically thinks to itself, you know what, I need to push myself, because if I push myself, I'll get more muscles. And if I get more muscles, I'll feel good and I'll look good. And when I feel good and look good, that means I'll get more validation. So it's basically you're motivated by these external things. So because you're motivated, you push yourself more and eventually you get those things. So the next level from desire is anger. And this is the most reactive energy that we have covered so far. The underlying feeling is, so basically it's like a quote that I put out, it's they laughed at me, I'll show them. It's basically proving people wrong, like it says in the motivation section. It's proving people wrong and remembering the past memories of how people doubted you. And that is your motivation. Going to the gym, and the motivation behind that is because you want to prove people wrong. It's intense energy, but it's also very reactive. So you're not grounded within yourself when you are, angry. You're just sort of reactive towards what has been placed on you in the past. And there's no sort of moving on from that. You're using that in order to propel yourself forwards. My opinion on that is that it's a very good starting point. But when it gets to the point where you have to keep on being consistent and keep showing up every single day, that's when the energy needs to shift. This right here, the anger, is very good for when you're starting. Bro, I'm in a hood again. You can hit the police, man. Damn. But when you're starting up, this anger, it can be very, very, very beneficial. But once you're set and you're doing it on a consistent basis, the anger does not really serve you anymore. What you need now is something that keeps you grounded. So with that being said, let's move on to pride. So the level above anger is pride. The underlying feeling when you have this sort of pride is you think you're better than these other lazy people, and you feel sort of like proud, right? You feel proud of yourself and you feel like you're more than others. The motivation of why you want to go is because you have this boosted sort of self-image of who you are, and you view yourself better than others, and you look for things that reinforce that belief of how you're better than everyone else. And your mind, you work out because it boosts your internal and external image. So you working out basically means you're boosting your external and your internal sort of self-image. And when you do that, you feel better about yourself. Now let's move on to courage. When it comes to courage, the motivation of why you want to go to the gym, it's very internal, right? Because in the past sort of examples, we have talked about how the motivation is external and how we look for things outside, other people criticizing us or the flaws that we find on our body. We see things externally, but here, for the first time ever, we see that the motivation is internal, and it's a desire to improve and respecting your body. And by respecting your body, I mean working out for you to be healthy and eating foods that keep your body in good health. And in your mind, you're not trying to prove yourself, but you're learning, you're going through that journey. And even if you make a mistake, you're still pushing through those mistakes. So this is where you get into courage, and this is where you can go to the upper echelons of the levels of consciousness. But for now, I'm going to stop here because I feel like it's important to talk about the lower levels first before jumping onto the higher levels. So that was basically a very short version of how each level has its own sort of characteristics and how it impacts the mind. What I did was I walked you through each energy level and how the mind thinks. And the reason why I used the gym example in the first place was because it's something that I can relate to, because I go to the gym regularly basically, and it's just something that was very interesting to me, of how you can use different energy levels and try to point out where a person is at. You can literally see through the body language what a person is thinking in their mind. So I just thought it was a very sort of physical example to help you understand and wrap your head around the energy levels and how it sort of impacts the mind. But what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to the practical actions that you can take while holding all this information that you've just absorbed, right? And the reason why I'm making this sort of section is because I think just me giving you information would not sort of help you. It will help you because you understand the information, but in order to gain that information and do something with it, this section is very important for that exact thing. So without any further ado, let's just jump into it. The first sort of practical action that you can take, and it sounds a bit contradictory, but stay with me for a second, it's letting go of the present moment and accepting what is currently. And the reason why I'm saying it's contradictory is because the way I said practical action, it probably felt like I was trying to give you like a checklist of what to do. But the thing is, the simple reason is, you cannot move up the levels if you do not accept where you are. And I've learned that the hard way, because what I used to think was I could just bypass stuff mentally. I can just think and I can move up the stage. But it doesn't work like that, because when you're feeling something, right, when you're feeling a certain emotion, it's not really about thinking your way into that feeling. It's about literally creating scenarios in your like actual life and transcending through those emotions as you're taking action or as you're sort of working on yourself. And when I'm saying working on yourself, I don't mean working on yourself on the physical level. I'm talking about the mental and the emotional level. When you work on those things, you can clearly see a change outside, because once you sort of put work on the inside, it kind of transmutes into the outside world. One thing you will go to trying to accept what is you're going to go through resistance, because your mind just thinks, oh, I'm feeling this way. I don't want to feel this way. And instead of accepting it, there's like this blockage and you can't really accept what is. So to give you an example, let's say you hate yourself, or you want external validation to feel secure within yourself. The way people go about that is they sort of push it away, because they think, oh, it's not really me. I don't want external validation. That's not me. I don't hate myself. I love myself. But internally, they're not thinking, oh, I love myself. They're thinking, oh, I hate myself, right? They're thinking, I want the validation of these people and these people. I want to impress these people and these people. They don't think about, oh, I love myself, I don't need no validation. Maybe they think that on the outside, but internally they're not thinking like that. And that's one of the most sort of challenging things you can go through, while accepting what is, while letting go of what you think. The simple switch that I found to help me with that is just accepting what is. Just accepting that, yes, I want external validation, or yes, I do hate myself. Because you cannot move past a certain level or a certain barrier that you place on yourself without accepting that barrier. For example, let's say you plan your day for tomorrow and you wake up tomorrow and for some reason your whole day doesn't go as planned. Internally, you'll be like, oh, I hate myself. Well, why did I do this? Why did these people come to me and this, da, 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 da. Who do you think is going to make more sort of progress? The person that just sits there and be like, oh, why did this happen to me? Oh, I hate this and I hate that. Or the person that just kind of accepts the situation even though it feels shitty, just like, oh yeah, it happened, let's move on from that. Obviously the second person, because the second person doesn't take that as sort of like a wall. He looks at it and he's like, let me actually do my thing. You could reside on any level, but the way you transcend through each one is by literally accepting it. You know how I showed you the examples before? If you literally accept that you feel this sort of anger towards other people, if you do accept that yes, I do miss the old me, or if you do accept, yes, I do miss my sort of old life, and yes, I do regret this and regret that, but that's okay. once you place that, or once you remove that sort of mental baggage, and the way you remove it is by just accepting it, right? It sounds a bit contradictory. It's like, bro, why am I accepting this? This was like a bad situation from my past. But if you literally just accept it, not on like a level of, yes, I love these things that happen to me, but just, yes, these things happen to me, I acknowledge that, it can turn into a shift, right? Maybe your idea of accepting the present and letting go of what you're currently feeling is people being disrespectful to you, and you just taking it and you just accepting the disrespect. I'm not talking about accepting that. What I'm talking about is accepting the feeling behind that disrespect, and while letting go. You know how letting go seems you're just pushing everything away, but letting go is basically accepting and telling every part of yourself that, okay, yes, I do sort of look at that, and I can understand it, right? You process through that emotion by letting yourself feel the intensities of it. And it might seem scary at first because all your life you held it inside of you so much. But look at the people around you, right? Look at the people around you. Every person around you, and I'm not trying to sound a bit like cocky or something, but I'm just trying to show you something, right? Every person around you, they're just suppressing everything inside. But what if you just change that, and instead of like just being like them, you tell yourself, no, you know what, I'm trying to be different. I don't want to be like these people that I'm surrounded by. And you just do the letting go. You just accept what is, and you make 10 times, 20 times more progress than other people, because they don't even know what they feel like. But imagine you know what you feel like, you accept it, and you want to propel forwards, and you want to transcend these lower level emotions that everyone is stuck in. One last message I want to share with you when it comes to letting go, that it's not really a practical action, right? It's just about processing what you think. And the way you process everything you think is by just letting yourself feel it, letting everything come to the surface, letting everything sort of flow naturally and not forcing anything to be, because there's going to be something that really pops up and you're like, oh, I don't like that. But it's about going through that resistance. In this book that I was reading, Parallel Universes of Self, Frederick Dodson, the author, he was talking about the 0 point, or 0 point basically. That's where you accept everything, right? You sort of don't have any resistance towards certain things because you get that acceptance. And from that point, you're at a point of like, you know, there's no mental baggage. You're just at a 0 point basically. You're not thinking about this and that and that. And you can choose where your attention flows, right? Your attention is not like focalized on one thing. Your attention is like, you can place it where you want. And that is powerful. That's basically saying, if you just surrender everything, your worries to God, the only thing that you need to do is just take action on whatever little thing that's like right next to you. Like for example, after watching this video, you might have a task waiting for you, but what you can do is you can think, if I just surrender all my worries and I just complete that task without any worries, knowing that God will take care of everything, you have a less sort of mental load in your mind, and you're not thinking about different things at the same time while you're doing a task. But the task that you're completing is going to be so well done and so efficient and so high quality that you're going to have this sort of a magical experience that you never had, because every single day you're carrying some sort of mental baggage. But just try to accept it and try to let it go and try to process through it, and naturally it will be dissolved. The second practical action that you can take is reducing seriousness narratively. Right now, you have a story or a narrative in your mind that you keep reinforcing without even realizing. You think, I'm a this type of person. I like these type of things. I hang out with these type of people. I think this way. I'm like this because of that. You're too attached and are easily moved by the contents of your life because you take them so seriously. And because you take them so seriously, they reinforce in your own life. Now, what I'm talking about here is very common because I went through the same thing where I look at my life and I just take it so seriously. I'm looking at what age I am. I'm looking at the people around me. I'm looking at who I am, the values that I hold. I'm looking at what made me this way, maybe past experiences and stuff like that. And I recently realized, or not recently, I've realized this before, but I just wanted to remind myself about this, and I wanted to remind you at the same time of, instead of taking everything so seriously, the reason why, if you even take things so seriously, is because we are so attached to this identity that we have. But it's time to realize this identity itself is not real, because I do believe that we were just here on this planet, right? And everything else was just placed upon us. And the reason why every person is different is because every person has gone through their own unique experiences, whether that be trauma, whether that be good experiences, like joyful experiences, whether that be in their day-to-day life, hanging out with different people with different perspectives and different emotions and different beliefs. Everyone has their own unique experiences that cannot be reflected by any other person. For example, you know you the best, right? And if you ask your parents, they're going to have a different sort of perspective of you. If you ask your friends, they're going to have a different perspective of you. And if you ask, let's say, your teachers or something, or someone at your workplace, they're going to have a completely different perspective of you. And that should show you that no one truly knows you. You know you the best, right? But sometimes you don't even know you. So who is this you that you keep referring to, and why is it so prevalent? It may sound like I'm talking out my arse right now, but listen, the reason why I'm talking about not identifying and reducing the seriousness is because I always remember this one thing that I learned through Stoicism, which is memento mori. You're always gonna die, or you're gonna die one day. Do you get it? You're gonna die one day. Instead of taking everything so seriously, I get it, sometimes you have to take things seriously, but instead of taking stuff so seriously when you're just normally going through life, and let's say you're in a supermarket or something and someone just gets angry at you, instead of doing that, why not just sort of chill for a second and just relax? Because you're never gonna get this sort of time back. And I'm not talking right now like I'm just smoking something, I'm like, oh guys, it's okay, you don't gotta be so serious, it's calm. Like, bro, it's like, I don't know, it's like 7 in the morning or something. I'm just talking right now. Do you know what I mean? Like, reduce the seriousness in your life, man. Do something that reminds or brings back the joy of you when you were a child, or just truly ignites that joy in you. Because I've been through different experiences and I've experienced different things, and the only thing that I can come back and talk about here is just do things that you truly enjoy doing. And if you understand what you're truly doing and you enjoy it, do them. And I'm not promoting any habits that may be like addictions and stuff. I'm just talking about, bro, if you want to go do something that you truly want, go ahead and pursue it. What I'm talking about here is basically detaching yourself from the identity that you place, because the identity you place on yourself is not exactly you. It's just been reinforced that this identity is you. But truly, what I've understood over the past years of just deep thinking and research, I'm not any type of monk, bro. Like, I'm just a normal person. You don't need to take me anything like serious in that, but I like the depth of different things, right? That's why I'm talking about that's why I'm making this whole video in the first place. I wouldn't have made this video if I wasn't like, I couldn't talk about this depth. The reason why I'm making this video is because I like talking about this stuff. But it's time to realize that this identity that you place on the outside, exterior, even with yourself sometimes, or even when you're around people, where it feels like you're wearing a mask, that's not really you. That's not really you. And that's just the identity that you identify with. The true identity of who you are is behind that mask, behind that veil. And when I'm talking about true identity, I mean the one, if you have meditated, it's the one that observes. The one that observes your emotion, the one that observes your thoughts. And it's just so peaceful in that moment where you're just like, you're sitting down and you're like, oh yeah, I'm thinking about that. But it's not like I'm thinking about that, it's I'm observing the thinking that I'm doing. Do you get it? It's like, I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about that. For example, let's say I'm just thinking about different things. But instead of saying, I'm thinking about that, I'm thinking about this, it's like, I'm just looking at what I'm thinking, right? It's about looking at things. Let's say you're on a motorway or something. The thoughts could be like the cars and the trucks. That's not really you. you're just sitting there, you're just observing everything else, but it's not really your thoughts. They're just there. And everyone or anyone that had your exact same replica of experience would have the same thoughts. So by that logic, you might as well think, you know what? If everyone on this planet, or if anyone on this planet went through the same exact experiences as me, basically like a one-to-one replica experiences of me, they would have the same thoughts, the same likes, the same dislikes. And you just act like, yo, it's not even that deep. Anyone that has gone through my experience would act the same. And you take that seriousness off of you because you don't view yourself as, I'm special, I'm this type of person, that type of person. You just take it as yourself. It's like, yo, anyone else would have felt the same way. And this doesn't mean you have to push away the way you feel, or the type of person you are, or the beliefs that you have, or the intelligence that you have. You should be proud of all that, but it's just about reducing the seriousness of life and just be like, you know what, yeah, it's all gonna be fine. I'm just like, I don't know how to explain it right properly, but it's just about sort of releasing everything. To make this a bit more clearer, I just want to give you an example. Let's look at the fear of failure. Let's say you're doing something right now, or you want to do something and you're not taking action on it because you're afraid that you're going to fail one day. Now let's try to understand the fear of failure for a second, right? You feel a fear of failure, and the underneath sort of layer beneath that is you're afraid that you're going to be judged, or you're going to be seen less than when it comes to other people. They're going to see you doing a thing and you're like, oh, but they're going to judge me about this and they're going to judge me about that. That's the fear underneath the fear of failure, because you think other people will judge me because I failed. And the level beneath that is, if everyone see me that I failed and stuff, they won't love me or they won't care about me on that sort of level, because I was doing something and I failed doing it. So other people will see me as less than and just not care about me anymore. And the fear beneath that is that you're going to be feeling empty a lot because no one loves you. You failed at the thing you're doing. Like, you're not really doing good for yourself. And you're just going to be feeling like this emptiness inside of you. And underneath that, you're going to have the fear of emptiness itself. You're going to be like, I don't want to feel empty though. Like, I want to succeed at something, but I don't want to feel that fear. I don't want to feel the emptiness as well. And underneath that, you're going to think, if I fear, or if I fear the emptiness, the fear beneath that could be the fear of disease. Because you're feeling empty and because you're fearing fear, that could create a disease. And I'm not talking about physical disease itself. It can lead to mental, like psychological sort of disease, right? You're going to be thinking a lot, you're going to be depressed, or you're going to be in anxiety, and that can lead to the physical illness as well. And that illness, then the fear beneath that is going to be the fear of death. So think about that. You're going to be going from the fear of failure to the fear of death. Literally, you're going to be from here to here. And all of sort of fear is essentially, it boils down to the fear of death. If you just think about it, or if you just mentally compute it, every fear sort of comes down to you being abolished by the people around you, or just the fear of death. And those two things can be linked as well, because you're sort of abolished by the people around you. The inevitable thing that's going to happen is death, because that's just how it used to work back in the days. You know what I mean? Like back in the day, I mean like back in the day where you used to be abolished from the tribe and you couldn't survive on your own because humans were like together, like tight-knit communities, and you wouldn't be able to survive on your own in the wild. So a simple trick to reduce the seriousness is just asking, and what, to every sort of thing that your brain pops up with. And what? Just ask yourself, like, and what? What's going to happen then? Because you're not being controlled by that fear anymore. You're actually asking it to create a logical step of where to point forwards. If you don't do this, this will happen. And what? Well, if you don't do that, that will happen. And what? Like, if you just keep going through that, and you will eventually like sort of reduce seriousness, right? I know some people will be like 50-50 on this. Some people are gonna love this, some people are gonna hate this. I think that's not true. And if you disagree with it, you're stupid. No, I'm joking. You're allowed to disagree with the stuff that I say. So, but on the other hand, just try to take everything less seriously, right? Don't try to use the opinions of people online, because everyone is just trying to rage bait you because they want some sort of engagement or validation on the internet. So the basic sort of gist of all this information is try to detach yourself from your own personality, because it's not even real in a way. But the whole gist of this section was just to take yourself less seriously. And by doing that, you're not going to be so identified with everything that you think and this person's opinions about you and that and that and that. It's not going to matter anymore because you're transcending through that. You're not seeing that through the same lens. You're not seeing that as, oh, me, these people are thinking about me this way and this and this and this. You're going to be taking a back seat like that. And you're going to be looking at everything like that. And imagine the action that you can take while you're in such a relaxed state. You just don't give a shit. Now, in this part of the video, I wanted to leave you with an anchor. We've already covered the foundation. We've already covered the meaty part of the video, right? We have our foundation ready, but we need something on top of that foundation to make your sort of motivation or make everything that you've learned today more stronger. So the way we're going to make it stronger is by discussing faith and belief. We need to anchor using faith instead of belief because most of us are belief rooted. I was belief rooted for most of the time, right? When I was younger, I grew up being sort of like a belief rooted person where if I see something, I'll believe it. If I hear something, I'll believe it. And if I'm not seeing that proof outside, if I'm not hearing that proof or I'm not experiencing the proof, I will not believe it. So for example, I'll just give you like an example that I used as a kid, right? When I was younger, I used to play football with my friends in the park. And there used to be these other bunch of kids, right? And the first time that they came to play with us, I was just looking at the way that they play by themselves. And to me, they look like they play really good, almost better than my group of friends or my team. And I looked at them and I'm like, yo, guys, if you play against them, I don't think we will win. I'm creating a belief right on that spot. I'm just looking at something. Maybe there's a guy who's doing these skills and I'm standing here and looking at him and like, yo, he's actually playing good. In my mind, I'm thinking he's good. He's almost better than my team. And I tell my team, yo, guys, I don't think we will actually win because they got this player and that guy and he might be better than us. I'm right there. I have not even played those guys. And I'm creating a belief in my mind and in my team's mind. And with that belief, we're going into the game. We're stepping onto that pitch. We're not thinking about, oh yeah, we're going to win. We're thinking, how do we not embarrass ourselves in front of these people? But as I've grown and as I've matured, if that same situation was to happen to me today, I would look at that team and be like, yo, they're really good. Do you know what I mean? Like, yo, that guy's probably good. That guy probably plays for an academy or something. When they play with us, I would not be in that same mindset of, guys, we need to control the game. We don't need to, I'm not going to be scared of them now. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have faith in my team. Even though it feels like, yo, those guys are better, they'll beat us. I'm not going to sit there and think, oh yeah, they're going to beat us. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be, yo, we're going to beat them. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to have this belief, or I'm not going to be overpowered by what my brain thinks they're going to be like. I'm going to be standing here and having that faith in my team. Even though 2 of my teammates have color blindness and 3 of my teammates are brain dead, I'm not going to sit there and think, yeah, well, guys, they're going to beat us. I'm going to be like, yo, guys, we're going to beat them. I have the faith in us. And where does that faith even come from? That faith is what overpowers your belief. Because with faith, you're not even seeing anything, any proof that you're going to win. But it's just this borderline delusion that you have inside that's like, yo, we're going to win. And when you have that, you almost create that belief out of thin air, right? You don't have any proof outside that you're going to win, but you just create it. And when you keep on preaching it to the people around you, they start believing it. And all of a sudden, there's this spirit that's built up. It's like, yo, we can actually win this game. So basically, in this story, you can take away that belief is overpowered by faith. And you should use faith as an anchor rather than belief, because belief is something fleeting. It can go away tomorrow. It can go away today. It can go away in a few weeks. But faith, that is what sticks. Even though you can't see the proof right now, even though you can look around yourself and like, I don't see the proof of what I want to be or who I want to be, what I want to be like outside. Or I know I'm not surrounded by the things that I want to be surrounded by, but one day I will. And when you keep on thinking that and thinking that and thinking that, you will start creating this picture in your brain where you can actually see a situation where you can be surrounded by those things, or you can be surrounded by these people, or you are that person. So let's just jump into how I went from that belief state of like a fixed belief, if I don't see it, I will not believe it, to a more open, like borderline delusion. That's what I like to call it, faith. Now, I always looked at Stoicism when I was looking at faith, because Stoicism has something called a death meditation. This is where you basically visualize your death or someone else's death, and you ponder upon the consequences that death will have. And it's basically to make you more grateful for yourself and for the people around you or the people in your life. For example, your parents, it could be your friends, it could be your siblings, it could be anyone that's close to you. But I've actually added my own twist to it so you can actually clearly understand faith instead of me just blabbering on and it's just words and you're not really understanding anything. This is what I would do, right? I would sit somewhere and close my eyes, or I would just lay down on my bed, or I'll do this when I was about to sleep. So I'll close my eyes and I would just vividly imagine me in my last moments being on my deathbed, and I'm thinking of all the things that I did in my life. I imagine myself being like an 80-year-old, 90-year-old, 100-year-old man, right? And I just imagine, what if everything went perfectly? What if everything went smooth? What if everything that I wanted to happen happened? And I just look at each scenario. I go through me in my 20s, in my 30s, in my 40s, and I just visualize like the best scenario that I want that to be. Now, obviously, it's subjected to you. What you want may not be what I want. What I want may not be what you want. You get the point, right? Everyone has their own subjective view. We all have our own subjective view. So you visualize what you really want. Not what the other influencer wants, not what you see online, what you truly want. Maybe you haven't even asked yourself what you truly want. So take a moment and just ask yourself or write down what do you actually want. And I know it's kind of a daunting question to ask someone or even ask yourself. It's like, yo, what do I actually want? I never questioned that. So this is your opportunity to actually, like look into what you want instead of looking at what other people want for you. What do you want for yourself? And when you look for that, I know it's difficult to just pick a thing on the spot right now, but have a rough idea. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just have a rough idea of what you want and close your eyes and just visualize that all happened in your life, right? Everything that you ever wanted, and create that sense of joy within yourself. The main core purpose of this sort of visualizations that I was making was that I was invoking the feelings I would feel when I had actually achieved those things. And when those feelings were invoked, those feelings created like an idea in my mind of how I could potentially go about that path and achieve that certain thing. And once you've done that for about 5 minutes or even 10 minutes, when you open your eyes, you're gonna see everything in a different way. Now, when you open your eyes, you're basically going to be like, yo, I was about to die, but now I have like a second chance at all this experience. Everything that you've ever experienced, now you have a second chance of experiencing the same thing once again. You know those visualizations that you've done about what you wanted, the life that you wanted to live, with the people that you wanted to hang out with, the places that you wanted to be? That's all going to be real. What happened now is you went from here back to your body right now, and you can actually experience that in your sort of timeline, and you can experience it all again. And when you think about that, your relief brain will just kick in and you're like, no, but this will happen, this will happen. But when you are with that same sort of energy that you felt when you were visualizing, you actually have this alternate, I don't want to say timeline, but alternate reality sort of open, where you now have the freedom and you now have like a path to look forward to. You anchor that path by using faith instead of belief, because your belief brain will kick in a lot. And this is the important bit, right? Whenever there's an objection or there's something that pushes you away from that path, you will experience that thing, whatever you have visualized, right? Almost have this like borderline delusion that you will experience that thing. Even if something tragic happens in your life, you will still experience that thing. When you constantly anchor yourself to those things that invoke those positive sense of like feelings in you, or something that you basically enjoy, right? When you do that, you almost have something positive to look forward to. And not only that, you know it will happen. And when you know it will happen because you wouldn't really think about it if it wasn't possible for you to physically be able to experience that thing. So when you are having an objection, whether that be physically you're having an objection that you physically cannot do anything about it, or you mentally cannot do anything about it, you still anchor yourself with that faith, you know what, it will happen. And when you basically anchor that, you know what else will happen? You won't settle for anything less than what you have set yourself for. So for example, let's say you have visualized yourself like a perfect partner, or not a perfect partner, but you know what I mean, like a good partner. Let's say there's just a mid person that comes through. You're not gonna sit there and be like, oh my god, you're my perfect partner, or you're the person that I visualized all this time. You're not gonna be like that, right? You're gonna be like, yo, this person is right here, but it's not really something that I know I'm gonna go for. So instead of settling for less, you're gonna be like, you know what, I have faith that I will be able to be with this person. So I will not, go for you. I'm not insulting anyone, right? I'm just saying, when you set yourself like a standard in your mind and you have faith that you will be able to reach that standard, there's no point in settling for your belief brain that will try to keep you down and try to keep you grounded by the belief of other people that have been planted into you. You'd rather go on with what you have set in your standard. And there will be people, and these are the tests that you will face. There will be people, and there's going to be, different things in your life that will point at why you are wrong, why you shouldn't really have faith and you should stick with beliefs. You should have this fixed mindset of everything being made up of beliefs. But trust me when I say this, I've had the same sort of challenges. But when you act with faith instead of belief, you know that you're always going to be protected regardless. It's almost like, God's protecting you because you have this faith inside of you. It's almost like when you have that faith, you know what's going to happen, right? And you know your reality, and you know that feeling. And what you're doing is you're experiencing that again. Yo, what's up, guys? Editor Tio here. Thank you for watching this video. It took about a year to make. I'll be honest, it took less than that to make, but it's just me slacking on the editing because it's a long video. It's too long, man. But hope you guys get some source from it, get some motivation or understand yourself more. So thank you for watching, and consider subscribing. I put a lot of effort into this, so yeah, catch you next time.